Go. All right, let's let Michelle in and let me share my screen again. Thank you for joining me today. Let's just have a quick hello. Hi, everybody. I am going to start sharing this, and I'm also going to explain why I wanted to do this, because this has been on my mind for the past 4 or 5 years. So as we go, please do use the chat and talk about your own things, because this is only from my perspective, which, as we're going to see, is a big problem with singing, that none of us know how anyone else feels about things. And we all kind of assume that people do. And a lot of teachers and coaches assume that people feel things the same. So that is a challenge, because what we feel is very unique. So do share what you are thinking as we go along. Oops, brilliant. Why is my singing so inconsistent? Do put your hand up if you feel this. If you feel that you like, why one day does it always work, and then why one day does it feel kind of different? And when you sing a song on one day, it feels like one way, but it feels completely different the next week. Let me know. Does anyone not feel that? Or let me know in the chat if anyone feels like they have that voice that always sounds the same. But do most of us, does everyone, is it universal that we all feel like we are quite inconsistent? When I was auditioning, when I was going through the kind of whole West End auditioning thing, I spent a lot of time in coffee shops in Leicester Square praying. And I don't have a religion, but I would sit there literally repeating over and over again, please make that note come out, 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 as if that would do anything. And then some days, as I've said, it's a pair of wings, others it's a brick wall, and you go into a room and some days it wouldn't listen, and some days it was like pushing, muddy, sticky, and all of those things. And as a vocal coach, I hear this almost every lesson, that people come in and they say, how can I just always be able to do it? How can I do it every show? I don't think I've met a singer who's just like, yeah, my voice always works in the way I want it. So I want to talk about why and how we can manage this. You all know me apart from Stephanie, if that's right. So I'm just going to quickly make this do this in 10 seconds. So trained at Arts Ed, worked in the West End, founder of Sing Space, founder of the Vocal Gym. And I'm researching at the moment lots of benefits of singing on mental health and mental health on singing. I have also put that I have imposter syndrome. I am overloaded with information out there. I have battled vocal inconsistencies. I am baffled with all the methodologies. And I have faced mental health challenges, and I am totally intimidated by academia. And basically all I want to do is create all day long. So I feel like I'm kind of on the edges of society. So I think we're probably all, again, in good company. I think probably most of those things, again, are pretty universal amongst the people here. Right. So if you want to, in the chat, can you put what it feels like when your voice doesn't work? If you do feel something, is there a certain, I mean, for me, it used to feel muddy when it didn't work. It felt like there was something I had to do. And I would kind of go on, I'd feel it even in warm up, and I think, oh, or just speaking, you go to start speaking, think, why is it muddy today? And that was just, that's what it felt. It just didn't feel free. It felt like it all stuck, like it was somewhere. I want to check back at some of those words and see what you feel. I think the first thing to say is that we're going to have to find some acceptance here. So we are our instrument. We're not going to pick our instrument out of a case and start playing it. It's going to fluctuate and be fluid like we are. Your energy levels change all the time, day to day. You'll have good days, bad days. Your chemical levels change, your hormone levels change, your mood, your emotions, your health, and a lot of those mean the same thing. To be honest, I just put them all there. And then there's those external circumstances, the material you're singing, the vowels or the consonants. You think, why can't I do it? And it might be that everything internally was great, but you just got a really tricky W on an I sound, and you're trying to sing the wrong vowels and consonants. and it's not great. It could be that it's the weather. It could be the time of day. You could have a bit of reflux. It could be the morning. It could be that the room is not so acoustically buoyant, and that kind of makes you perceive that you're not singing. So what do we have to do there? If we accept that basically, sorry, your voice will change, it is going to change, then what do we have to do? And I think that we need to know our voice really well, in a way that is aware of what's happening, and to build a big toolbox of approaches if the first attempt doesn't work. So when you feel muddy, you know, oh, I can try X, Y, Z, and I can do that. And those things have to be your own tools, because I think one thing that is also very common in the way that singers practice is that you think that your MD or your singing teacher or your friend knows the answer. But I think that what we're talking about is autonomy today. It's ownership. It's how to gain ownership over your instrument. So we embrace that fluidity and we move with it. So where is it? All right. So yeah, I think that singers, I keep moving your pictures across the screen. Singers rely on, when I move your pictures like this, can you see it moving? Or is this just me moving your pictures? You can't see it. Okay, fine. I keep moving you so I can see what I'm reading. I also ask yourself now, if you do that, if you think somebody else knows best, me, maybe, that would be nice. Somebody else has the answers there. So we can coach and we can guide, but do you think that there is somebody else who knows? And do you feel a bit of powerlessness or disassociation with your own voice? And I want to, again, ownership. This is what it's going to be about today. How do we put you in the driving seat? So we need targeted practice, but I don't think it currently exists commonly. In lessons, when I ask people to practice, they don't really know how, like they just not quite sure. And I think it's, again, for some reasons we're going to talk about. I started to look about 2-3 years ago. Some of you know where some of this is going, but I started to look at the landscape of how people practice and realized that there was a problem. So if we look at these practices, there's a commonality to the form of practices, that there's urgency to them, and there's a really short-term goal. So starting with a private lesson, and we've all had a private lesson. Some of us are vocal coaches and you've given a private lesson, but there is a cost upon minutes. You know that you've spent that time, and you know that something, you go in there and you want to come out feeling better. And as a coach, you know somebody is invested in you and you want to give them something right there. You want to give them like a really nice tasty morsel to take away and to leave feeling full. So it's very immediate, and that diminishes some of the stuff that we need to accept. I think that's the first. So we have private lessons. It's very common to vocally warm up, you know, even in choirs and primary schools, you would still do a warm up. Every show you would do a warm up, but we're not practicing there. We're readying ourselves to sing. It's a short-term goal. And then some song practice as well. I mean, yes, great if you were just putting on, you know, tracks and just singing, brilliant. But a lot of the time we're not. We're in a rehearsal and we're practicing it. Short-term goal, urgency to perform or to audition. So these are all these short-term goals. They really shift the way our neurons work and our bodies work because of that pressure. So what is missing there? Like, what's that other thing that is there? And this is what's been in progress. A lot of you have been on this journey with me over the last few years, but this is oh, where's it gone backwards? Oh, are we missing something? So I started looking at what other athletes did. And I would say every sports person, diver, football player, basketball player, they're just there. They warm up to be match ready or to do their gymnastics that day. And they practice that routine in context where they're practicing their backflips, or they're practicing, you know, they're doing play matches, but they all work out, don't they? Like every single athlete always works out. and they do their body conditioning, and they have their coach doing their mental training and their dexterity, and also, you know, and their weights. They don't just warm up and then practice that thing. And what we've seen from the last slide is, I think at the moment singers don't have that place. I genuinely think they don't have that place, and I really can't find it anywhere. So you know, this does look like there is something in our world that is missing, and a reason why there is this kind of this gap of uncertainty. And then I thought, well, how can we optimize this even more? So if we think that, you know, what we need to add is a workout, you know, taking your voice to the gym, but it's not just that. We can optimize it even further. So what about all those amazing activities that remove the pressure completely? Someone going for a nice run there. Now, she is not running to be the fastest runner. I don't know this woman. I found it on a stock image, but I would assume she is just being present and feeling good. She's probably smelling the autumn leaves. She's probably enjoying the way her heart is beating, feeling the oxygen in her body. And she's probably doing it, she might be doing it for a marathon, but she's probably just doing it as a daily thing to make her feel better. And these things are really common. Like, there's yoga and there's meditation, and they don't need to even be something that you do to have a goal. So I think that's what we need to add in as singers, is that we need to have a workout that is for the workout itself. And I think that is going to be our way of trying to stop being afraid of inconsistency. And I've put it's a singer's pandemic because I really do think it is completely, it's just really common. And it's a shame, because we all started singing because we absolutely loved it. And then I think that we're a lot of the time, we're just a bit afraid of it. We've kind of forgotten that joy. So how do we combine the benefit of a workout, but also with the benefits of a non-pressured activity like yoga or meditation, or going for a lovely run through autumn leaves, and to start to take ownership of your voice? So these are the 4 steps that I have been working on. Step 1 is prioritize mental and physical health, which I think would be surprising if you pay for a lesson and someone goes, prioritize your mental health. You would think, hang on, I want to know how to belt that E. Like, don't tell me to think about your mental health, but we're going to have a pandemic, which is information overload. And I think we all feel that as well. There's just too much to think about. We need to target our exercises and not do random high kicking bella sonoras, because you know, what is that actually doing? And we need to optimize the way that we practice. So mental health. Hello, where is it gone? Where's my beautiful slide gone? This is my little circle. The circle here. If we can kind of say this out loud to make sense of it. We feel better when we sing better. We sing better when we feel better. We think more clearly when we feel better mentally. When we feel better mentally, we think more clearly. We feel safer when we sing more easily. Don't know what that word is. We sing with more ease when we feel safer. And we are healthy when we sing more, and we sing more when we're healthier. Okay, singing technique starts with you. You are your voice. Your voice is you. Now, I think most of you know this, but you have to have a quick science class to understand why. Okay, put your hand up if you know the difference right off between your autonomic and somatic nervous system. Here we go. Like, yeah, look, should we just say it really? One is involuntary, one is voluntary. So pick something up right now, pick it up, touch your nose, pat your head, right? Voluntary. Okay, this is a lot of what we do is voluntary. Involuntary, can I ask you now to make your cells repair? Really hard. Let's do it. Let's all repair our cells. Okay, can you make your heart start beating at a different rate right now without? Can you digest your food right now And I would like to see some other yeah, so you get what I'm saying, right? Some of them we can't do. Now the singing, look at this beautiful kind of lovely connections throughout our body. Your vocal apparatus is part of your autonomic nervous system. It's just happening. We have to know that when we set the landscape of what we're saying. Although there are some conscious things that we can do, like we can consciously affect your breathing now. You can take a big breath in. It's still going to do it all night long when you don't. And your voice, before we started thinking about it, you wouldn't like, you talk to a kid now, they're not going, I'm thinking about how to make my vowels and consonants. That's just happening. Okay, it's responding to the world around it, and the internal, and this thing called interoception, so this conversation between your body and your brain. All right, so you kind of have to understand that. And for some of you, you know that already, because I go on about it quite a lot. But if you don't, and you suddenly realize that your voice is an involuntary thing, like your heart rate, like cellular repair, you're like, whoa, hang on. So it means that doing or working hard isn't always that efficient. So when we talk about taking the voice to the gym, it's not, again, high kicking bella senoras. We have to figure out how to do this. We cannot instruct our vocal folds, larynx or diaphragm to do what we say and guarantee that it won't do something else entirely. Whatever I tell you, or you tell yourself, or your favorite singing teacher tells you, we don't really know what's going to happen, okay? Because again, it's we'll talk about why actually. The other quick science lesson you have to know is that the two of the parts of your autonomic nervous system, your involuntary nervous system, we have got, and again, lots of you know this already, but let's just go over it. So sympathetic, fight or flight, tiger approaching, email from your boss in your inbox, heart rate goes up, higher breathing, blood to the peripheries. We need to run, fingers, toes, it's ready to go. You're ready to go. Adrenaline is flooding. We are ready to fight. It can be useful. It makes us feel clear and awake. And so we don't need to be afraid of it, but we also need the other side of things. So once the tiger has passed, this is all we still have the same, pretty much the same nervous system as we did thousands and thousands of years ago when we were living in caves. And the diaphragm releases, deeper breathing, slower heart, safe in my cave. My body is going to restore and regenerate and repair. And here, the nerves that supply the larynx and the hundreds of muscles connect to the parasympathetic nervous system. It doesn't mean we can't sing when we're feeling excitable and full of adrenaline, but it does mean that we want to also optimize some parasympathetic activity as well. Really important. When I say innovate, mean that the nerves connect from the brain to the larynx and the vocal folds, from the parasympathetic nervous system and involuntary nervous system. I think this just changes everything. So singing does make you feel better, and you feel better when you sing, because what's one of the best ways of optimizing the parasympathetic nervous system and gaining all those mental and physical benefits, which going back were the cellular repair, the optimized digestion, the slower breathing, the anti-inflammatory benefits, the serotonin and oxytocin, and the lovely hormones, at long exhalations with vibrations or singing. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of Emily Folks's research, and they tested these long exhalations on the parasympathetic nervous system, and it really they tested it on heart rate and blood pressure, and it makes a big impact. So again, we go back to circulating through. You feel better, you sing better, you feel better. So we start with mental health. This is just some of the things that I've kind of taken from Emily. So do check out Singing for Health Network, and she did a seminar at Sing Space, and she went deep into all of these and has all of she cited everything behind them. But just so you know, singing also reduces your cortisol, your stress, and releases endorphins, Endorphins are pain relief. Singing can help pain. Deactivates the amygdala, which is your alarm system, and stress, and oxygenates the blood, and it uses more of the brain than anything else. And so add mindfulness and you have one of the most researched methods for parasympathetic activation. And it came higher. I read a paper and it came higher than meditation, running, or dance. So it's massive. So when we're talking about those other activities like yoga and meditation, I question, like, why are we not doing singing more? Why is it not more common? Everyone's, at the moment's got this, you got a Peloton or goes for a run or does their yoga or meditates. But how would it change us if we did a small amount of singing, 3 times a week? So there's this here, I thought it was brilliant when we're talking about mental health, because there's a singing meditation called KK, which has been tested in patients with dementia. And after 2 to 4 months, those who practiced every day for 12 minutes showed increased blood flow to several parts of the brain, as well as overall cognitive function. You can read more about that, Lisa Mosconi. It's a really good book. I can't remember what it's called now, but she's brilliant neuroscience professor who explains things really, really well. So there's so much benefit. So I think you get it now, like why we start with mental health, hopefully. When we're trying to fight inconsistency, let's go back to the target, because I think sometimes you might, especially if you don't know me, you come along today, or if you're watching on catch up, you come along because you're like, oh, I want to hit that note. And you think that consistency is about hitting that note every time or not feeling muddy. And you want me to say, well, all you need to do is sing on this valve, do this thing, this breathing thing, and give you an X, Y, an equation. And I think what I'm saying here is that you can't have an equation to this pandemic of inconsistency. We have to start with understanding, and I have to hand the information to you to be able to understand. And when you feel that ownership, is going to be a beautiful thing. So we've got the landscape here. It's an involuntary activity. When we sing better, we feel better. We feel better when we sing better. Prioritize your mental health as step 1, and see the difference in this kind of quest for consistency. Now, again, a lot of you will have felt practically what we've been doing, but to see some of this, the reason behind it. So we move away. How are we going to do this to feel better? We're going to do daily SOVT work with mindfulness. And I'm going to skip past the slide about SOVT work, because most people here, I think, apart from Stephanie, you do SOVT Wednesdays anyway. So if you don't, and you are watching on catch up, we've had quite a lot of people sign up to watch on catch up. So just take a moment, you can pause it and you can have a look at this slide if you don't know what SOVT work is. And you can use anything here, but use some mindfulness as well. Okay, so on the previous slide, we're seeing why that's working. So by using SOVT work, we are really going to find these benefits here, and you don't need to really do much else. You just need to blow some bubbles down through a straw. But what I would say is do it with mindfulness, so that you focus on a technique, which again we do a lot. But when you're doing, when you're doing your SOVT work, really focus on what you're feeling. This is my favorite quote: SOVT allows me to feel how singing should feel. And so all those ambiguous concepts, such as how do you support, or how do you use your diaphragm, or how do you, I don't know, anything, you can explore it. How do you twang? How do you, you can explore it with SOVT work. Body keeps the score. I'm just going to read some of these comments quickly. Yes, I hear that's amazing that body keeps the score. Cool. I'm going to read these at the end. Thank you for commenting. Do comment as you go along as well. And I hope also for those of you who are here who know me, I wanted to do this. I think it's reiterating a lot of what we do in the vocal gym, but I wanted to try to put it down to understand why, and to make sure that we're on the right track and that we're not missing something, because if we're showing up, we should be optimizing it. Right. Step 2. So we've sorted our mental health. We've acknowledged we're going to do some long exhalations with vibrations. We're going to feel better. We're going to sing better. What do we do with all this information? How do you deal with that? So this is kind of how we all feel when we're about to sing. And I just wanted to put this in. We don't hear what people mean, we hear what we think people mean. So your teachers are really trying to help. You go into a singing lesson and you're getting some really great advice, but actually we're all kind of hearing everything differently. You know, we're never really hearing what anyone's saying. And I think like we're basically life is just a constant hallucination of what we are projecting from our brains. So it's really, really hard. So you, again, why am I saying this? Because you have to feel it for yourself. You have to take ownership, and it's a longer journey to ownership, but the reward is so huge if you can do it. I was teaching a Olivier award-winning singer who was just about to do a big Saturday night solo performance last week, and she was trying to hit some big notes, and she said that I hear every vocal coach I've ever worked with in my head, and I could see it, that she was just like, she's like, you know, 4 decades into her life, and I could see the stress there. And this is here, all these methodologies, and how do you do this? And then there's me throwing more information at you. Like, how do we deal with this? Like, is it just the way it is that we're about to sing and we have to think about all these things in our head? We have to get to the point where we decide that in an audition or a performance or that you're just listening to music and thinking of the story. We need to get to that point. Like, that's where we want to get to. And I believe that you should have, you know, no more than maybe 2% of your brain on technique when you're performing or auditioning. And I think when you get to that point, like, who's going to not want to cast you because it's true and it's real? And who really wants to experience someone trying to navigate technique and pretend it's acting? So we do have to just show up. And we go back to this whole thing is we go for one-to-one lessons, we warm up, we practice our songs. But what about this other thing, this showing up, this practicing? So yeah, this is just, there's so much out there. Like, I don't even know, like, it's just terminology. It's just like, blah, it's crazy. And you get people in the room. I get people crying in 30% of my lessons at the beginning of a lesson, just because they are so stressed by people trying to say big words at them, and doesn't make any sense. You're saying big words to your autonomic nervous system. Let's go back to that. So again, make your cells repair now. I'm telling you, like, try and make your cells repair, and also try and think about big words at the same time. Like, it's futile. It's really futile. We just have to feel it. Okay. So me just getting a little bit into poetic here. I just kind of feel like the voice is a ship upon the ocean of our self. So you could be a really shit hot sailor, but there's wind and there's a sea and maybe a whale passes by, tremor in the earth. You know, you could be really, 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 really good, but we get back to the idea that we're riding this fluidity that's in our body, the hormones and, you know, the changing moods and the changing health. We can't try and own the sea. We can't try to, it's like being in a relationship with another person as well. Cannot try to control our voice like we can't control another person. But it doesn't stop it being worth going sailing. And so it doesn't stop us just because it's a complex terrain. It doesn't mean it's not worth singing. It's just, it gets more beautiful. You become like that, you know, that tracker who can see the little footprints of the animals and knows where, you know, what the plants are. The more you learn about the voice, the more beautiful it is and the more in control that you feel. And again, we go back to, you have this toolbox of resilience. You can use these tools to get to the places you need to get to. So this is my solution, and a lot of this is from Heidi Moss's learning as well. I think we were doing it anyway in the vocal gym, but her science was really helpful in letting us understand that. Brain activity is as tiring as physical activity. If you are trying to think about all those things on that slide, you know, the 100 different things that people have said, you'll only have 100th of your energy on each of those 100 things. It seems like cheating to think about one thing, not even just the jaw, but like one muscle of the jaw, just the temporalis. Not even just the temporalis. Let's just think about, you know, like we'll just pinpoint it with your finger. The more you can think about one thing, the more you have to energy to build those pathways. And when you do that, something called myelination occurs. Myelination is just the insulation around brain pathways. So it retains the heat so messages can reach their destination. So if you practice just thinking about that one thing, just that one thing, once a week, twice a week, you will build those brain pathways quite quickly. Whereas if you are trying to multitask, you're singing, you're thinking about everything, you may not build any brain pathways because you're not giving it that chance. So there was that whole thing about you have to do something 1,000 times, but I don't believe that. I think it's about the mindfulness that you do that thing with. So this is why in the vocal gym we follow a familiar structure, yet we vary the lens. So I always want to change up the scales and the sounds, but actually it gives us a chance to build myelination, and we call it muscle memory. Our muscles don't have a memory. They're not like they just don't have a memory. It's myelination memory. So when you've got that, you know, that those circuits nice and strong, the muscles then get the signals. So that's what we're doing. We need to second. This is actually my favorite bit of the slides, is just about this is what this is the change in practice, removing the need to be perfect. Again, we're not going to be focusing on the thing if we're trying to get it right. We have to have a space that is not a private lesson, that is not warming up, is not practicing, that is just a space to play and to remember why we love singing, and just to feel it like we would with a meditation or a yoga class or going for a run. The third thing I think you need to do is you need to be aware. So this is kind of over to you, is that I can't make you aware. So I think, you know, we need to feel the pedagogy to understand it, feel the science to understand it. We know there is very, 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 very little sensory feedback in our body. So you need to feel very subtle, minute details. And again, Heidi said in the seminar on Wednesday, did you hear her say it? She said she can now take her own heart rate in the same way someone else would try and feel a pulse. She can feel her own heartbeat and actually be able to time it. I can't feel my own heartbeat unless I don't know, like put my ear against something so I can hear the blood. Can anyone else feel their own heart? I mean, without touching it, without doing anything, just feeling. Can you feel it inside your chest, Michelle? That's cool. I think that's really cool. And there's so much, again, really cool stuff for singing, like because we know it's an involuntary activity. There's a really subtle difference between rehearsed singing and spontaneous vocalization. But like, that's, to me, that's really cool. But you have to, you know, you have to get to know that. So we basically, our goal is unconscious competence. So this is where we want to get to. You're performing, you're auditioning, and you know what? You've done all of the practice. You've built all those pathways. You've shown up. You have the tools that work instinctively, and you are unconsciously nailing it. And that's where we want to get to, right? Just because we want to enjoy it, whether or not you're a professional singer or not. I don't sing professionally at all anymore, but I sing all day long, and I have so much more pleasure in singing if I have, you know, taken the time to do these other things. And I think you do have to show up. I get a little bit frustrated in lessons when people say, how do I get better? I'm like, you need to practice. They're like, okay, but then they don't, and they still get frustrated when your voice is inconsistent. So again, we need to build the myelination. You kind of have to show up. So what a geeky seminar this is. So targeted exercises. How would you go about, forget the vocal gym, right? For everyone who's here, how would you go about choosing your exercises that were going to be the right ones? Because again, we're overwhelmed. There's so many things. Like, do you want to, you could do anything. But how do you know what exercises to do? You could, I mean, we could do anything, but is there any point in doing an exercise just for an exercise? So why are we doing these things? I think this is what I was very confused, because if you are doing an NG and it works for you, is it because your tongue's high? Is it because the closure of the tongue is making you creating resistance so you feel support? Is it because the tongue being high releases the jaw? Is it because you were practicing that NG on a note pattern that worked for you? Now, the reason you need to know these things is that when you've done your exercise, it needs to go into your song. And if you don't know why that exercise worked, it's not going to go into your song. As if it is like untangling a plate of spaghetti that was too slippery to grasp. There was too much information. So we're going to focus on a goal. I would like you to, if you can, what do you think the goal of singing is? Because I haven't quite got it. So mine were optimum vocal production and balance. So I wanted a really ambitious goal. Do you have a really good goal here? If you do, put it in the comments. Then we need things that will take us to that goal, and we need to figure out what that is. And we need to then have lots of routes to that. And it doesn't matter what exercise it is, it's about knowing the goal. So we start to be able to be, if you have a goal at the top of the mountain, you can try to always track the same route. So, but if one day something's fallen across that route, you can't get past it, and then you can't sing. And this is inconsistency. So you're performing, and that day your hormones are kicking off. So it's just shut down the route that you usually use, because your brain is a bit foggier, you're under energized, and your vocal folds are a little bit thicker. But if you know that you have lots of routes, you can be really fluid and you can go round it. So if we go back to the mountain, you can then you can try and go round the long way, or you can take the shortcut under the river, or you can ditch your bicycle and take a pair of roller skates. So it's not about the way there, it's about knowing what we're trying to aim to, and we're trying to aim to balance. So I'm not going to go into all of this today, but this is our goal, that little green flag over there. How are we going to get there? This is our optimum vocal production. This is what I drew. Okay, this is where you get a little bit of backstory to the vocal gym. So this is from, I think, 2018, way before the vocal gym. I wrote balance. I've written the things that need to happen for balance around this. You can't even read it. It's jaw release, good vocal fold adduction, free larynx. You know, it's basically, this was the first start of the 6 fundamentals. And then from each of these ones, I wrote all of the different exercises that organically help that to happen. Okay, so that won't make much sense, but that happened over about 8 months. This was a big whiteboard in my studio, and every time something worked, I put it on, and it just confused me more. And I didn't know what this was going to be yet, but I just kept putting them in. And then I did a masterclass for the Haymarket, and I had to actually present this. So I made it a little bit clearer. So this is when the 6 fundamentals happen. So for optimum vocal production, you need awareness of resonance, awareness of breath, awareness of vocal fold adduction, jaw release, tongue release, and a free larynx. That's when they came. I was like, right, if those things are happening, your goal, you've nailed it, you're doing it. And then I put all of these different things that help. Sorry about being a complete geek, that help these things. And then I found ones that fell under every single category. So SOVT, 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 SOVT was in every category, which is why we have to do it as part of the vocal gym. And the exercises have to be really easy to do so that we don't get them wrong. I later learned that I was doing a really cool thing called degeneracy, which I like, because I've always felt like a bit of a degenerate. So I like this. And does anyone know what degeneracy is? Has anyone heard this? Cool. All right. So read How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett. The brain basically works in that way that any function, do you want me to read? Look, you can go basically, to get to a goal, the same outcome can be produced multiple ways, which means that for you to cry can be produced in billions of different ways throughout your body. There's not one fingerprint, so there's just so many ways of it happening. And they used to think that the brain worked, that there was a pattern to everything, that you can map an exact pattern, and now they know that it's just constant. It's a degeneracy. It's all these different ways that one same thing can happen. I think Lisa Feldman Barrett said it's the same as making, you can have the same ingredients, it's still a cookie, you make it a cookie, but you can put chocolate in it, or raisins, or raspberries, or whatever you want, but it's still a cookie. But you need the main ingredients. So we've got the main ingredients, which are the 6 fundamentals, and then you've got the various ways that you can cook. And again, this is equipping you with lots of skills to do it yourself. Final step, well, I think it's just one slide left, is just optimizing that. So we've got, if we're going over it, we are optimizing our mental health as state 1 with some long exhalations with vibrations. We are practicing one thing at a time. We are choosing exercises that have been sculpted to take us to that goal at the top of the mountain. And we practice them with repetition and consistency and awareness. And finally, the other ways to optimize it, I think we just know a lot of research that get yourself in the space with a body scan or a meditation. Again, you will build more myelination, you will have more reserves if you can put your attention onto one thing, and rhythm can help that. So before a practice, going for a walk or something, you kind of do need to get yourself in the space, retain the sense of play, and take moments of wakeful rest. Heidi Moss again, between practice. So when you've practiced something, just shut your eyes, take a deep breath, take a minute just to let the information you've just learnt be interpreted and retained by the brain. So again, we always think we're very consciously powerful, but actually if we just sit there and be mindful after learning things, that's when the information goes in. And I think Heidi said it was 20-fold, didn't she? I think Janet, you were there. 20-fold by practicing motor exercises and taking 1 minute of wakeful rest. I think she said it improved learning 20-fold. So, hey, we can do like 20 times less practice with a bit of that. Need to look more into that. Yes. So, yeah, I think that is the long answer to how we get past inconsistency as singers. And I think most of you are already doing this. This is exactly what we're doing by showing up to the vocal gym 3 times a week, 2 times a week, even 1 time a week. It's, I think, not showing up at all, we are dismissing something that can help. But I think you need to do it around yourself. I'm going to stop my share now, just see if anybody wants to ask any questions. It's really hard to know whether my geekiness makes any sense. There's a lot of information in there. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello, I do. That was great. Sorry, I wasn't on a meeting, so I joined a little bit later.
Right.
But my question is the following. How do you consciously apply the pillars that you talked about and the exercises within the pillars to the singing? How do you make the bridge? How do you consciously know, okay, I trained SOVT, resonance, and etc. That's how I'm going to improve that particular area of my singing?
Yeah, so I think one of them is like going to the gym. You've strengthened yourself, so your singing will improve anyway. So if you go and you do your weights, when you go to run, you'll have stronger muscles. If you've been doing your body conditioning, you will be stronger for it. The other one, but if we're wanting to, step away from scales into song, first of all, you could do the SOVT exercises on your song, and then you could start to feel them in context, because it's all very well training it on like a woo over and over again, but you get really good at doing those fifths, but you need to start to do it on your song. And I think the third answer is it goes back to awareness. So when you're doing your SOVT exercises, there was the quote that SOV teaches me what singing feels like. You'll remember what singing should feel like. And although it won't feel quite the same because there won't be a straw there, you can retain that sense of long exhalations, you know, because you've been blowing out through the straw, and you can then bring just that into the song. So when you're singing, you know, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, you can think about the fact that you've learned that you need to exhale through a phrase, or that so you can take some of the learnings that you learned in an exercise and specifically carry that little sensation or awareness into a song. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And then it goes back to what you were saying, right? It's like how much do you let it go when you're like a newbie versus how much you pay attention, and then you let your kind of prefrontal cortex, you know, be the editor, say, you know, and try to go into perfection. I think that's the tricky thing, right?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the slide on which I'm not sure whether you were here for, is removing any kind of perfection goal. That you're not in there to be better right away. You're just showing up, and you know that's just something that you're going to show up. I think there are lots of people who've been doing yoga once a week for years and years, and they're not doing it to be a yogi, you know, to be the best. They just want to feel better in themselves and feel physically better, and they know that it'll just happen. And I think yeah, try not to practice to be perfect. Try to just enjoy the pleasure of practice, the sensations, and trust the process.
Life lesson for me. Note to self for everything.
Yeah, it is. It comes down to it, doesn't it? It's exactly that. It comes down to just remembering why we're like just enjoying ourselves in the moment, remembering singing feels nice. The life is fun, you know, we forget that, you know. Yeah, cool. All right, hope that answers it. Has anyone else got any questions or any kind of stories to share? Janet, you had an example of that in the classical lesson this morning. Short break due to mic failure, and repeated the phrase better. Okay, yeah. So you took a break. So we need to take breaks. I think yoga teaches you, Sarah, that we should not be driven by results. Yeah, I think we need to get a little bit more yoga around singing. I kind of think I feel like it should be, there's a space, and I'm not sure how. I feel like there should be a space that people practice singing in the way that they practice meditation or yoga. You know, when we look at all the mental health benefits, you can go and join a choir or you can sing, but I feel like there should be something that people, you know, like the KK meditation, actually, whoever, I don't know what it is, but you sit there and you follow a routine that for 12 minutes, you know, a couple of times a week. And it's something you do, like you would tune into Headspace app or Calm or go for a run. Do you do chanting as well? Oh, yeah, some cool information about chanting. I did some chanting for the first time, and it was in Camden at Tri Yoga, and I was completely blown away by how good she was. And actually, she's a vocal coach and a West End performer. She's been doing it for about 30 years. So I've invited her to join Sing Space, and she's going to do a monthly session in the vocal gym. So she's called Nikki Sade, but check her out. It's amazing. I was just like, wow, that's just amazing. So if you've got a goal, a specific goal, Sarah, your goal was really specific here, to establish the lower passaggio 5 tones, B flat to F above middle C. Yeah, so what I would say with that one is that's I like that. It's like a mini goal inside the big goal. If my big goal was balance of optimum vocal production, you can, I think, take some time to do the other exercises on that part of your voice. But again, don't do it to get it right this week. Just say to yourself, for the next 6 months, I'm going to spend 2 times a week just doing straw work on that part of my voice. Great. Yeah, I think Sarah again, sometimes lose track of the beauty of the music and allowing the music to flow through us. Yeah, we do. All right, does anyone have anything anything like precise that you want to actually ask about while I'm here? Anything that you just go, right, I want to know this. I'll see if I can answer. No? Cool. All right. Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today and allowing me to just geek out on this stuff. I will end it here. And if you have any other questions, then just get in touch. Let me know. And have a great weekend, everyone. Over and out. Bye.